Hello and welcome back to Mirror Mind, the channel where we uncover the truth behind narcissistic behavior, one layer at a time. If you've ever been made to feel like you're the problem, when deep down you knew something just didn't add up, you're in the right place. This space is here to bring clarity, validation, and healing. Today, we're diving into one of the most confusing tactics narcissists use: projection. It's subtle, it's manipulative, and if you're not aware of it, it can make you question your own identity. Let's unravel this psychological weapon and help you see clearly again. Chapter 1. What is projection? Projection is a psychological defense mechanism. It's when someone takes the thoughts, feelings, or behaviors they can't tolerate in themselves and assigns them to someone else. In simpler terms, they say, "It's not me, it's you." We all do it sometimes. Maybe you're feeling nervous about something but accuse someone else of being uptight. That's a mild form of projection. But when we talk about narcissistic projection, it goes much deeper and much darker. For narcissists, projection is not just occasional, it's a core part of how they protect their fragile sense of self. They project their rage, their jealousy, their dishonesty, their manipulations, all of it onto you. And it works. Because if you're a kind, empathetic person, you might actually stop and wonder, am I really the problem? Chapter 2. Why do narcissists use projection? To understand this, we have to look at how narcissists function internally. Narcissists often carry deep shame and insecurity. But rather than face it, they build a false self, an idealized version of who they think they should be. This false self must be perfect, smart, powerful, morally superior. Anything that threatens this illusion, even internally, is rejected. And because they can't acknowledge their own flaws, those flaws have to go somewhere. Enter projection. By accusing you of what they actually feel or do, they're defending their false self. It's easier to call you a liar than admit they manipulate. Easier to call you too sensitive than face the harm they've caused. Easier to label you controlling than own their need for dominance. In a way, projection is a psychological boomerang. But instead of returning to the thrower, it smacks you in the face. Chapter 3. Real-life examples of projection. Let's bring this to life with some common examples you might recognize. Example 1. The jealous partner. They accuse you of cheating or flirting constantly. But in reality, they're the ones being unfaithful or crossing boundaries. Their paranoia is not about your behavior, it's their own guilt turned outward. Example 2. The blame shifter. You calmly try to express how you feel, and suddenly they say you're the abusive one. They say you're manipulative, cold, or always causing drama. You walk away wondering, was I really too harsh? But replaying the conversation reveals you weren't. Example 3. The martyr narcissist. They play the victim, saying everyone uses them, no one appreciates them. But they're actually the one emotionally draining others, making passive-aggressive jabs, or demanding constant attention. Projection turns their internal discomfort into your fault, and that's exactly how they keep control. Chapter 4. The gaslighting connection. Projection often walks hand in hand with gaslighting. Here's how they reinforce each other. Projection says, you're the one with the problem. Gaslighting says, and you can't even trust your own perception. Let's say you confront a narcissist about something hurtful they did. They respond with, "You're always so dramatic. You're the real manipulator here. I can't believe how toxic you are." That's projection. Then they follow it up with, "That never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're crazy." That's gaslighting. The result? You're not only holding their emotional baggage, but you're also questioning your own reality. This combo is psychologically disorienting. It creates a fog where you can't tell what's real anymore. And in that confusion, the narcissist thrives because your self-doubt gives them power. Chapter 5. Projection in family systems. Projection doesn't just happen in romantic relationships. In fact, some of the most damaging projection happens in family dynamics, especially with narcissistic parents. A narcissistic mother might call her daughter selfish for wanting independence, label her son lazy when he doesn't cater to her needs, accuse a child of being ungrateful when they set a boundary. In truth, the parent is the selfish one, but acknowledging that would shatter their self-image. So they push that shame onto their child, and sadly, children often absorb it. This creates adults who feel guilty for saying no, believe they're flawed at their core, work overtime to earn love. Breaking free from this kind of projection is a deep healing process. But awareness is step one. If this resonates with you, you're not broken. You were blamed for what wasn't yours. Chapter 6: Projection in Friendships and Workspaces. Let's not forget projection shows up everywhere. In friendships, a narcissistic friend might accuse you of being judgmental because they secretly judge everyone. Say you're attention-seeking because they're jealous when others notice you. Claim you're always competing while constantly one-upping you. At work, a narcissistic boss might blame you for their own mistakes. Say you're not a team player when you set boundaries. Undermine you publicly, then say you're the one being unprofessional. In both scenarios, projection becomes a tool to avoid accountability and maintain dominance. And again, if you're a conscientious person, you might internalize it. That's what makes it so effective and so damaging. Chapter 7: The Emotional Toll of Being Projected On. Let's talk about what this actually feels like emotionally. When someone projects onto you over and over, it's not just annoying, it's exhausting, confusing, demoralizing. You start to wonder, am I the one who's toxic? Why do I keep making people angry? Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I do overreact. This is how self-esteem is eroded bit by bit, day by day. Not through one huge blow, but through repeated moments of being made to feel like you're the problem. You may feel anxious around them, like you're constantly defending yourself. Like walking on eggshells is your new normal. That's not healthy. That's not love. That's psychological manipulation. And you deserve to name it for what it is and start stepping away from it. Chapter 8: Why Projection Works on Empaths and Survivors. You may be wondering, why does projection work so well on me? And that's a valid, powerful question. Here's the truth. Projection works best on people who already question themselves. Narcissists rarely project onto other narcissists because those people fight back. But when they find someone who is highly empathetic, self-reflective, trauma-informed, eager to grow and improve, they see an opening. Because if you care deeply about doing the right thing and someone accuses you of being the problem, you'll pause. You'll reflect. You'll ask yourself, did I hurt them? Was that my fault? Am I being selfish? This internal dialogue is beautiful in a healthy relationship. But with a narcissist, it gets weaponized. Your empathy becomes a trap. Your integrity becomes a tool for their manipulation. You try harder, apologize more, walk softer, and all the while, they're offloading their own shame onto you. Chapter 9: How Projection Blocks Their Growth. It's easy to look at projection as just manipulation, but it also reveals something deeper: emotional immaturity. Projection is a defense mechanism that blocks a narcissist's growth. Here's why. When they feel shame, they throw it at someone else. When they make a mistake, they blame it on you. When they feel insecure, they criticize others. This means they never actually process their emotions. They don't sit with guilt or learn from feedback or reflect on how they impact others. So while you may be growing, learning, evolving, they're stuck. Emotionally, they're trapped in a loop of blame, denial, defensiveness. Projection is like a mirror they hold up to you, but it's really just their own reflection. And the tragedy is they never turn the mirror around to face themselves. Chapter 10: The Narcissist's Fear of Exposure. Why do narcissists go to such great lengths to project? Because beneath all the arrogance and charm is a fragile, terrified self. One that cannot tolerate being seen, truly seen, in all their imperfection. To a narcissist, being exposed means losing control, feeling powerless, facing the shame they've spent years burying. Projection protects them from this. It's like armor not made of steel but of blame. So when you say, "That hurt me," they hear, "You're bad, you're broken, you're unlovable." And instead of sitting with that shame, they fire it back. "You're too sensitive. You're the one with issues. You're the problem here." They reject the truth to protect the false self. Projection is not just manipulation, it's defense. It's not just cruel, it's terrified. Chapter 11: When you start believing the projections. Here's where it gets dangerous: when you stop questioning them and start questioning yourself. You think, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am hard to love. Maybe I am the narcissist. Let's pause here. This is narcissistic projection's final goal: to make you carry the burden so completely that you doubt your own reality. And here's the hard truth. They want you confused. They want you unsure. They want you so busy fixing yourself, you stop noticing their behavior. And many survivors of narcissistic abuse internalize these projections. especially if they grew up in households where blame was a weapon. But here's what's real. You're not too much. You're not broken. You're not the narcissist just because someone labeled you that. You're someone who wanted connection, who believed people could change, who trusted too long because your heart is big. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Chapter 12, Recognizing the Moment Projection Happens. To heal from projection, you have to recognize it in real time. But here's the tricky part, projection doesn't always come with flashing lights. It can sound like concern. It can feel like confusion. It can even look like love. So how do you spot it? Look for these signs. You feel confused after a conversation, but you can't explain why. You walked in with clarity and walked out doubting yourself. You're apologizing for things you didn't do just to keep the peace. You start feeling guilty or ashamed, but nothing concrete happened. That's your first red flag, emotional whiplash without logic. Let's say you calmly bring up how their words hurt you and they respond with, "You're always attacking me. Why are you so negative? You need help." They just redirected your feedback back onto you. That's projection. It's not feedback. It's not an honest misunderstanding. It's a form of emotional sleight of hand. Chapter 13, Creating Emotional Boundaries Against Projection. Once you see projection for what it is, the next step is to protect yourself. That starts with emotional boundaries. Here's what emotional boundaries sound like. That doesn't feel true for me. I'm not going to carry that story about myself. I know who I am and that's not it. You don't need to defend yourself in detail. You don't need to convince them you're not what they say. Because if someone is projecting, logic won't help and your clarity threatens them. Instead, you protect your inner world. You step back emotionally. Limit deep disclosures. Refuse to accept labels that don't belong to you. Think of it like holding up a mirror, not to them, but to yourself. Ask, is this how I normally act? Or is this how they see themselves? That question alone can save your self-esteem. Chapter 14, Reclaiming Your Narrative. After months or even years of projection, you may feel like you've lost touch with yourself. Your identity feels fuzzy. Your inner voice sounds like their voice. This is where you reclaim your story. Start by asking, what do I know to be true about myself? What do the people I trust say about me? What have I learned from this experience? And here's a powerful practice. Name the projection. Say it out loud or write it down. They said I was selfish, but I've always been generous even to my own detriment. That was their selfishness, not mine. This practice gives your brain a reset point. It separates their baggage from your truth. You are not who they said you were. You are who you've always been, you're just seeing it clearly now. Chapter 15, Learning to Trust Yourself Again. Projection damages the most sacred thing we own, our self-trust. When you've been constantly blamed, criticized, or accused, you start second-guessing everything. So healing means rebuilding that trust. It means believing your emotions are valid, knowing your memories are real, trusting your perspective even if someone else denies it. And that's not easy, especially if you were gaslit over time. So start small. Trust your gut on little decisions. Listen to your needs and act on them. Celebrate when your intuition proves right, even in small ways. Each of these steps tells your nervous system, I've got me. I can trust me again. And that's how you reclaim your freedom. Chapter 16, When Projection Happens in Healing Spaces. Projection doesn't just happen in toxic relationships, it can even show up in healing spaces. In therapy groups, spiritual circles, or recovery communities, people are often vulnerable, raw, and open. But guess what? Narcissists can exist there too. And when they do, they often use healing language to mask their projections. You might hear things like, "You're clearly triggered, that's your inner child speaking. If you're reacting, it means you haven't done the work. You're not at my level of consciousness yet." These statements can sound wise, but they often shame your emotions instead of validating them. When someone uses psychological or spiritual terms to invalidate your experience, that's not insight, that's weaponized projection. It's important to recognize when someone is helping you reflect versus blaming you for their own issues. Safe healing spaces allow feedback but never force it. They hold boundaries but don't belittle. Chapter 17, Projection in Family Systems. Now let's talk about family. Projection in families is common, especially in dysfunctional or narcissistic households. Parents may project onto their children, siblings may project onto each other, and no one names it because it's normal there. Common examples. A parent who calls their child too sensitive when they themselves explode emotionally. A sibling who accuses you of always competing when they're the one constantly comparing. An adult child being called selfish for setting boundaries. In toxic families, the most self-aware member often gets labeled the problem because your clarity threatens their denial. So how do you break free? You name the pattern to yourself. You set boundaries even if they don't like it. And most importantly, you stop accepting labels that don't belong to you. You don't need to play the role they've assigned you. You're allowed to rewrite the script. Chapter 18. Breaking the projection cycle. Here's a deeper truth: we all project, sometimes. It's a human defense mechanism. What makes the difference is how we handle it. If you catch yourself projecting, don't panic. Just pause and ask, is this really about them, or something unresolved in me? Am I reacting to their behavior, or to an old wound? What would I see if I looked at this without my fears? This is how you stop the cycle. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be willing to look inward, especially when your emotions spike. Breaking the cycle means being accountable without shaming yourself, allowing others their truth without controlling it, giving yourself grace when you misstep. That's emotional maturity. That's healing. Chapter 19. Building a self-image that can't be hijacked. Projection only sticks when there's something inside us that's vulnerable to it. That's why part of healing is building a self-image that's solid, compassionate, and clear. You need to know who you are, what you value, what's yours and what's not. Here's how you build that. Affirm your identity. Make a list of who you are at your core, not what others say you are. Repeat those truths until they feel familiar. Claim your growth. Name what you've overcome. Honor how far you've come even if it's messy. Surround yourself with mirrors, not judges. Find people who reflect your truth back to you, not their projections. Practice emotional hygiene. After tough conversations, pause and ask, what part of this is mine? What part is theirs? Over time, you become more resilient to projection, not because people stop doing it, but because you stop absorbing it. Chapter 20. The power of knowing what's not yours. Let's end with something simple and powerful. One of the most liberating parts of healing from projection is this realization. That's not mine. It's a sentence that changes everything. When someone calls you selfish for having needs, that's not mine. When they say you're cold for setting boundaries, that's not mine. When they twist your truth to make themselves comfortable, that's not mine. That phrase isn't defensive. It's not angry. It's clear. It's how you protect your energy, your growth, and your story. You don't need to convince the projector. You don't need to prove anything to them. You just need to stay connected to your own truth. Final thoughts: projection doesn't define you. Projection can distort your reality. It can make you question your worth, your motives, even your sanity. But here's the truth. Projection is never about you. It's about the other person's inability to face themselves. Your job is not to fix that. Your job is to stand firm in your clarity and keep growing. This journey isn't about avoiding projection. It's about seeing it, naming it, and refusing to carry it. You are not their shame. You are not their fear. You are not their distorted reflection. You are you, whole, aware, and healing. Thank you for being here with Mirror Mind. This is your space to see clearly, heal deeply, and live freely. If this episode spoke to you, consider sharing it with someone who needs it. Your clarity might be the mirror they need. Stay tuned for the next deep dive into the world of narcissism and emotional healing. Until then, trust yourself, protect your peace, and never stop seeing through the mask.